I need a clock. Give me my cell phone. Yes. Program is supposed to end by 6:30. Correct? Huh? Right. Okay. Right. Okay, so again, maybe this time 15 minutes before. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Jai Samasta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. You have another 3 minutes, and only 3 minutes. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Chakshurunmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Darati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyacha Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Everyone may kindly repeat after me the two following short mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyai Namah. Om Surabhyai Namah. Om Surabhyai Namah. Mukam karoti vasalam tvagom langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatharanam yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatharanam. Hare Krishna. So I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for coming to this program today. I'd like to thank our organizers for inviting us. As you can see, yes, you can see, on the screen, the subject matter is in connection with Sanatana Dharma. Those who are carrying the message of Vedic knowledge throughout history have a very difficult task. Our various teachers, acharyas, over the centuries to this present day have a very difficult task. That task being of shattering our illusions about what is not. And of course, it begins with the basic instruction that we find in the Bhagavad Gita, that we are not the body. The difference between the Dehi and the Deha. Dehi referring to the spirit soul, the Deha to this material body. So, for a number of years, there's one aspect of the mission of our founder, Acharya, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, that has, I would say, received less attention. And in the short time that we have this evening, we will try to highlight this aspect, which is actually an integral part of, as we will see here, what we call Sanatana Dharma. I mean, most of you are from India or have connection with India, and pretty well everyone in India has heard about Dharma and has also heard about Sanatana Dharma. So in one sense, one may say, well, what is there new to learn? Sanatana Dharma, we all know about Sanatana Dharma. We are followers of Sanatana Dharma. Our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, has left India, has come to the Western countries to introduce and teach us. We know that the knowledge presented by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, as he himself explains, is very confidential knowledge, is very deep knowledge. In many ways, it is like hidden knowledge. It is the topmost knowledge, the most perfect knowledge, and in many ways, because it is the most perfect knowledge and the topmost knowledge, it is not immediately obvious. It is actually also very confidential knowledge. Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam. It is the highest knowledge. It is Guyam. It is confidential. And Krishna also explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhakto Sime Sakachiti Rahasyam Hi Etaduttamam. Rahasyam, very mysterious. So this evening, we will try to maybe help uncover a bit more this whole topic of Dharma, and it's an area. I mean, all of us as devotees, our primary goal and primary aim in life actually is to further our understanding and also practical application of the principles of Dharma. Our acharyas over the centuries, I mean since the beginning of creation, are speaking on this topic of Sanatana Dharma. So I'm choosing this method of using a PowerPoint because simultaneously having some visual contact will hopefully be helpful in understanding more on the subject matter. So this is very much based on trying to really understand how the whole concept of Dharma needs to be needs to be seen, needs to be understood, needs to be put into practice on two levels. Because it has two features which we will explain here that affect both our spiritual life as well as our material life, isn't it? And Krishna has given us in the Vedic literatures all the information that we need to actually more clearly, more deeply understand these two features of Dharma. And this particular presentation will be looking at how we are meant to apply these principles of Dharma in terms of three very basic but essential components or aspects that are actually an integral part of our lives, which is also explained nicely by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and referred to in many of the writings of our acharyas. I'm sure most of you have heard the very, very important concepts of Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan, and Prayojana Gyan. Just to remind ourselves, Sambandha has to do with identity, and Sambandha has to do with relationship. It is the beginning of our journey, we could say, to realizing the matter, the truth behind this topic of Dharma. So it begins with Sambandha, identity. Once this is known and understood, then we go to the second level, Abhideya Gyan. Gyan means knowledge, knowledge of activities, what are meant to be proper activities. Again, to be carried out on these two levels of spiritual level and material level. And naturally, the third aspect is Prayojana Gyan. Prayojana refers to what is meant to be the destination or the goal, where we are meant to go. What is meant to be the natural conclusion. So hopefully I've given this presentation just a few times, and hopefully it will go okay. Yes. Sanatana Dharma in two features. What are those two features? Yes. One is on the material level and has to do with, or is referred to in the Shastra and by our acharyas as Daiva Varnashrama Dharma. The second level, naturally, has to do with the spiritual level and can be more easily referred to as Jaiva Dharma. Dharma, I think all understand, means what is meant to be, or what is actually natural and original. So Jaiva refers to the jiva. It is a phrase or an expression used by one of our acharyas, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. As a matter of fact, there's a book some of you might have read called Jaiva Dharma. Very interesting and very nicely presented by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So as I mentioned, Sambandha has to do with knowledge of identity and relationship. And when we look at Daiva Varnashrama Dharma, this naturally is in relation with gaining some understanding, as clear understanding as possible, of the two concepts that make up the term or the word Varnashrama, means Varna and Ashrama. Now I should mention, although this word Varnashrama, the word Varna, the word Ashrama, are all found in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures, we generally, within our society, maybe talk somewhat less about. And of course, that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to highlight its importance. Many times Srila Prabhupada spoke about what is meant to be the relationship between Varna and Ashrama, explaining that first one should know one's Varna. First is Varna, then comes Ashrama. And of course, as a society, we are more focused, I would say, on ashram, isn't it? We commonly refer to and speak about brahmachari ashram. We have some gurukulas, not many. Grihastha ashram is probably the most popular ashram, the one that is more known. And Vanaprastha is of course also known, but maybe less less practiced. And sannyas is something that we are all familiar with from the very beginning. So there's a natural and very, Krishna has arranged. Krishna is the one who has created, of course, this system of varnashrama. Srila Prabhupada and our other acharyas have spoken quite elaborately on this subject matter. We have statements such as one is only considered a human being if one is part of the system called Varnashrama system. And so this is on one side in terms of sambandha. Means on the bodily platform, when we live in a more natural environment, and of course that's a topic that will come up because most of us are not living in a natural environment, it becomes more obvious and more important to know about the whole aspect of Varna and Ashrama. Jaiva Dharma is something that most of us are more familiar with, and that has to do with what is our original spiritual nature, which is, of course, to be an eternal servant of the Lord, the very well-known definition given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas, isn't it? So this aspect of service, the whole explanation in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam about Bhakti, the highest dharma, being the activities of Bhakti, or devotional service. And this includes the whole science of rasa, which is in itself a very involved subject matter. So this we could say is meant to set the scene to understand or to enter the other level. The other level being Abhideya Gyan. In other words, what are meant to be the ideal, or what are the prescribed activities according to Shastra, according to our Vedic literatures, on these two levels of Varnashrama Dharma and Jaiva Dharma. And one point which is nicely highlighted actually by Srila Prabhupada, this reference here in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Later on you can read that. Chapter 9, which is dealing with the departure of Grandfather Bhishmadev, isn't it? Grandfather Bhishmadev, lying on his bed of arrows, is giving very, very important instructions to Yudhisthira Maharaj. And in this particular verse, in the purport, text number 26, Srila Prabhupada comments on the first instruction given by Grandfather Bhishmadev. What is that first instruction? Grandfather Bhishmadev explains to Yudhisthira Maharaj that you are now the established monarch. This is after the battle of Kurukshetra. The whole battle of Kurukshetra, of course, we know was meant to establish Yudhisthira Maharaj as the emperor of the world. So Grandfather Bhishmadev tells him that the very first instruction he gives is that you should make sure that the whole society is organized and based on the system of Varna and Ashrama. And Prabhupada, in the purport, that's why this particular purport is very important, he explains that actually this system, this material system of Varna and Ashrama, how to organize society, what are meant to be the prescribed duties of individuals, that system is created by Krishna, given by Krishna to help actually accelerate the development of our spiritual qualities. And as devotees, as aspiring Vaishnavas, we are eager, we want naturally to advance in spiritual life, and that advancement is when we develop, revive the original qualities, isn't it, of the eternal spirit soul. So the point being made here by Srila Prabhupada is that Krishna has created that system for that very purpose, to help us actually become more quickly Krishna conscious, to accelerate our development and advancement in spiritual life. So this is, let's say, setting the scene. Now, we will look at, understanding this, and I should add actually that these two aspects of what we call material Swadharma and spiritual Swadharma, they are eternal systems. They are eternal scientific systems. They are meant to be the norm for us who are here in the material world, where we are faced every single moment with these two realities. We have this body, we are influenced by the material energy, and simultaneously we know if we come in contact with this knowledge, if we come in contact with devotees, we know that we are different from this body. We are the eternal spirit soul, and we have to handle, we have to deal in the best possible manner with these two levels of reality. So in other words, Krishna has, in his wisdom, has created this material world and put in systems, and this is one of the important systems in terms of how to arrange our lives, how to organize our lives, how to organize society, so that we will more easily be able to attain our goal, perfectional goal of life, which is, of course, to become self-realized and to wind up our being here in the material world, which is labeled, as we know, as Mrityuloka, place of death, isn't it? Where we are every single day confronted with the threefold miseries of life. And we have to resolve the four problems of life, being birth, death, old age, and disease. So let's move on here a little bit. In Daiva Varnashrama, of course, both in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about different prescribed duties. So we should know, again, this is Krishna's creation, that Varna leads to asrama. So Brahmana, Varna, for example, when one knows, when one is situated in the Brahmana Varna, then the four ashramas are open to him. Whereas if one is situated in the Kshatriya Varna, then only 3 ashrams are open. Means only Brahmanas are meant to take sannyas. Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras don't take sannyas. I'm just trying to highlight how Krishna has created this system in a very systematic and scientific manner. Which is important for all of us to know and to follow as well. Now, another aspect which is directly connected with Daiva Varnashrama, and this is something maybe less, definitely less followed, less known as well in modern day society. The difficulty is that not only is it less known and less followed by, we say, non-devotees, by general people, but it is also less followed by our own devotees. That's where the problem is also. And again, this is something very nicely explained by one of our spiritual authorities, that means Grandfather Bhishmadev. He explains again in his whole presentation, discourse to Yudhishthira Maharaj about these 3 gifts of nature. And this can only be understood more easily, more clearly, when we live a particular lifestyle, which most of us are not living. So that means it makes it difficult for us more so. But the recommended lifestyle, that's why it is mentioned up here, how Vedic culture is meant to be an agrarian-based culture. Vedic culture is, if we just have to remember the pastimes of Krishna, isn't it, 5,000 years ago? We just have to think about a country like India, where even today, the vast majority of people are directly connected with, there's 60 or so percent still of the population in India still living in the villages. Mind you, our villages have changed a lot. Our villages have become urbanized in many ways. And we have lost a lot of the original, what is meant to be the original lifestyle. And it is especially in villages that these three gifts of nature are meant to become a daily integral part of our daily lives. Cows, land, and knowledge, cultivation of knowledge. Cultivation of both spiritual and material knowledge. Sometimes I hear devotees saying that Krishna consciousness can provide or has all of the spiritual solutions to the problems in the world, which is true. But what we tend to forget, or probably we forget or we just don't know, is that Krishna consciousness, Vedic knowledge, Vedic culture not only provides all the spiritual solutions in the world, but provides also the material solutions in terms of how we should deal and interact with the material energy. This is our challenge in many ways, I would say today, both individually and also as a society. As a spiritual organization, I mean, Srila Prabhupada has given us, I would say, a very weighty mandate. I mean, one of the statements, many similar statements given by Srila Prabhupada, one of the purposes of the Krishna consciousness movement is to bring a complete overhaul within society. Complete overhaul means a complete change within society, not to merge with what is going on in society. Not knowing or not understanding that, hey, is this in harmony with what is recommended in the Shastra? Is this in harmony with what Krishna has taught us when he appeared 5,000 years ago? Isn't it? So therefore the need for us, again, not only to understand, but to factually put into practice these two levels or these two aspects of Dharma. I have to keep going here because the time just doesn't stop. So cows, land, and knowledge are practically, I mean, they are worshipable objects, you know. And all three of them need to be understood as mothers meant to nourish us both spiritually and materially. We speak of Mother Cow, we speak of Mother Nature, and we speak of Mother Saraswati, who is the goddess of learning. Inasmuch as an ordinary child in a family is totally dependent on his mother, isn't it? For food, for affection, for love, for care. So similarly, the presence of cows, we are meant to develop as did the residents of Vrindavan. The Brajavasis are totally dependent actually on the presence of cows. Vedic culture, if we want to, if our goal, part of our goal is to reestablish Vedic culture, and we keep cows out of the equation, we will never establish Vedic culture. Vedic culture without cows, or a village without cows, is doomed to extinction. Similarly, also land. Land is, as mentioned in the Shastra, very well-known reference, Sarva Kama Dugamahi. All necessities of life come from Mahi, from the land. We tend to forget that because we go shopping. But once the shopping mall is not there, then, how do we get our food? How do we get our clothes, etc.? So these three aspects are very much part of this, let's say, lifestyle that is promoted within the context of Varnashrama Dharma. Now, one can practice spiritual life. Actually, the whole aspect of Jaiva Dharma, or the whole, the activities of bhakti or devotional service, if one is on that level of pure devotional service, then he doesn't have to bother so much with the material aspect, although he will understand that because it's given by Krishna, created by Krishna, he will generally work within that system. These are the four varnas, and of course, the Brahmana is meant to be a natural leader in society, but he is meant to develop the consciousness of being a servant leader. That's very important. Generally, leaders, if they are devoid of this aspect, if they're devoid of this knowledge, they will tend to exploit their dependents. So servant leader is there for Brahmana, same also for Kshatriya, same for Vaishya. And Shudra is not meant to be a leader, but he's meant to be a qualified follower. These are the two natural positions. Okay, already, huh? Okay. So these are the different references that identify the qualities and the activities of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. This is especially taken from Srimad Bhagavatam as well as Bhagavad Gita. So that whole system is there. And Abhidheya, again, what are meant to be the activities? This is, I would say, more known, more easily known and followed, although not so professionally achievable. The famous instruction by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Janma Sartak Kori Kora Para Upakar. So on an individual basis, we are meant to cultivate this knowledge through the process of hearing and chanting, Sravanam, Kirtanam, etc. And this is all nicely explained in detail by our acharyas, especially Srila Rupa Goswami, Nectar Devotion, isn't it? Sadhana Bhakti. So these are things we generally concentrate on as devotees. This aspect I just want to touch. Janma Sartak Kori Kora Par Upakar. What is meant to be the Para Upakar? Srila Prabhupada has delineated what are the four areas for introducing the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in these four phases. That's a whole topic that we will not enter into. But these are four phases: Sankirtan movement, temple worship movement, spiritual initiation movement, and this last movement that Prabhupada coined as classless society, which is referring to Varnashrama Dharma. Throughout all of this, of course, Vedic education is like the key, I would say, to understanding a lot of this. And that's why Prabhupada spoke about the importance of Gurukula and the importance of Varnashrama colleges. So in Vedic culture, there is formal education, which is academic education for a very small percentage of the population, and there is non-formal education actually for the vast majority of people. And there's a special different type of education for girls, which is different from what we find in modern day society, where the standard nowadays is coeducation. Vedic education is gender-based education, very important. All of these we could be spending a lot more time, but because I've been reminded that 15 minutes is already come and gone. So the third level, of course, is, where are we going? Where are we meant to go with all of this? And this is important. In the context of Daiva Varnashrama Dharma, we are meant, as nicely explained in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, to work towards developing a perfect society in terms of 4 social divisions and in terms of 4 spiritual divisions, means the Varnas and Ashramas, which will lead us to an ideal society where the majority of people actually are living in villages, which is, we are going in the opposite direction in modern day society, and therefore for us that should be a sign that, hey, we're going against Dharma. We have to come to that understanding and conclusion. We're going against Dharma by furthering this whole misdirected civilization in which we are living. And we need to understand, as Prabhupada tried to remind us so many times, today's society is a misdirected society. And we're meant to create something similar to Bhoma Vrindavan, what existed, what Krishna revealed, let's say 5,000 years ago. And on the spiritual level, we are meant to awaken, continue to awaken or increase our consciousness, spiritual consciousness. We're meant to develop love of God, Krishna Prema, and we're meant also, it's like on the material side, we're meant to create in the world here, Bhoma Vrindavan, and ultimately we're meant to go back to the original Goloka Vrindavan. So this is, in brief, in short, the concept of Sanatana Dharma in 2 features. These are some of the books, some of the literatures that speak on the subject matter, both in terms of spiritual and material Swadharma. Now I have my cell phone, which is not here. I have a card which I carry with me, which because this card has many of these books, and within this card there's a link that you can all avail of after our presentation here, where you can have, especially, there's one book, I think, where is it? No, it's not on this one. But it's the second book here. Oops, something happened. It's called Speaking About Varnashrama. I highly recommend this particular book. Can you bring this up again? Yeah. Speaking About Varnashrama is the second, anyway, that's where we want to go. Anyways. So maybe leave it there, it's okay. We want to go back to the spiritual world with Krishna and his cows. So this book, Speak About Varnashrama, you can avail of this book actually by taking this link here. We have maybe 8 minutes or so for comments or questions, more or less, yeah. Yes, I don't know if you have another mic for questions or comments, but kindly excuse me because it's a very big and major subject matter which we're not really doing justice to the subject in the in the short time that we have, but just wanted to kind of throw it at you, kind of, you know, and hopefully it can be food for thought. And it's highly recommend. We have groups of devotees in different places, different countries who are reading, discussing, and studying this particular book because Prabhupada, it's 100% different quotations and statements given by Srila Prabhupada. Yes? Questions, quickly. Time is running. Actually, we have another program, that's why we have to keep it kind of, we have to be strict with our time today. I don't see any hands up. It's okay. Okay. First hand that came up is in the back. Yes, speak loudly. You can stand up, that'll be better if you can. I can't see you.
So we're talking about the
Can move up a little bit, if you don't mind.
So we were talking about the caste system.
Good question.
Yes, is it? Whenever I've read the Bhagavad Gita or any other religious text, it says it's not that important.
Well, we are speaking of what generally people refer to as a caste system, but not in there's two aspects, let's say, or two understandings. See, there's a natural division in society that helps understand the nature, our nature. You know, some people are more intellectual, and so they're teaching at the university or writing books and things like that. Other people, they can't handle intellectual things so much, so they do more like simple, natural, maybe manual things. We have different natures. So when we speak of caste, it's referring not to the perverted caste system which has been abused, let's say, over the centuries.
So like the original caste system, where
Well,
based on characteristics.
There's an original natural division in society that exists everywhere and all the time because it's connected. If you read a book like Bhagavad Gita, you'll hear about what is called the modes of material nature. You know, the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. You're familiar with this a little bit?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All of us in the material world are, actually. So the idea is that this is directly connected with these divisions. People generally who will be more intellectual will tend to be more in the mode of goodness because they have access to more knowledge, like that. Okay, yeah. Yes.
All right. Question is, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prophesied that there are as many towns and villages as there are on the surface of earth,
Again?
Will be sung, right?
Can you repeat that?
So the question about that is that
About
will,
what?
Will that have to satisfy this national Dharma system that you're proposing according to Jaiva Dharma? Because for the holy name to be sung, will you have to have villages where there's cow protection, land protection, and protection of Vedic knowledge?
I just want to make sure I get your question. Can you reformulate or just repeat it?
So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that in every town or village,
In every town and village, yes.
will that have to correlate and abide by what you mentioned is that we have to protect our national Dharma system?
Yes, because Lord Chaitanya, in his instruction that in every town and village the holy name should be chanted, he gave that very important and well-known instruction to his two first preachers, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, right? Shono Shono Nityananda, Shono Haridas, Sarvatra Amar Agya Koro Aprakash, Prati Gori Gori Giya Koro Ibika, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shikha. So yes, Lord Chaitanya emphasized on the chanting of the holy name, which is a Yuga Dharma. Once we understand and once we properly chant that Yuga Dharma, we will understand what are the instructions of Krishna in terms of how we should develop our bhakti on the spiritual platform and how we should live materially to more easily favor and accelerate, as I mentioned a little earlier, the development of that bhakti. In other words, Vedic culture is, especially in Kali Yuga, especially emphasizing the spiritual activity of chanting the holy name, but as important, and in many ways Prabhupada explains, that in order to come to that pure chanting of the holy name, the more we create our social system, the more we live based on what is recommended in the Shastra, which means the more we live closer to nature, the more we live in connection with cows as well, understanding how, we didn't speak about this, but there is what is called there are 4 Vedic sciences. Two of them being especially manifest and displayed in Vrindavan, being the science of education and the science of economy, both of which are, practically speaking, I would say unknown in modern day society. Because Vedic economy is described, the formula for Vedic sustainable scientific economy is in the verse Krishi Korakshabani Jam Vaisha Karma Swabhavajam. Srila Prabhupada in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam explains how the majority of householders, that means the majority of all of you who are here, are meant to actually make their livelihood, are meant to be connected with agriculture. How far away we are from that. Vast majority of householders are meant to actually be connected with the profession of agriculture. I'm not saying this, I'm not making this up, I'm just repeating what is there in the Shastra and what Prabhupada comments on in the 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto. I highly recommend, by the way, for householders, and for everyone for that matter, but especially householders, to read these very important instructions given by Narada Muni, beginning from chapter 11 to 15, the last 5 chapters of the 7th canto. And that's where, the title of that the 11th chapter is called The Perfect Society for Social Divisions, or Varnas. And chapter 12 is entitled, again, The Perfect Society for Spiritual Divisions. And Srila Prabhupada has given wonderful purports in those chapters that help us more easily understand what Shastra is telling us, what I tried to convey a little bit here. So there is definitely a direct connection between chanting the holy name and in every town and village. And what we are meant to do is actually reverse the modern day trend, which is actually killing us. Modern day, Prabhupada mentioned, and we can all see, modern day civilization is a killing civilization. We are destroying our planet as we speak because we are allowing what we call, agro-business. We are doing business with Mother Nature. Dairy industry, taking care of cows has become an industry. We call it dairy industry, isn't it? We send cows to slaughter as soon as they don't give their 15 gallons of milk or whatever the quota may be, isn't it? Nowadays, you can't become a farmer unless you have a university degree so that you can use all of these, the modern day system. We've deviated in such a major way that we practically are not even aware of it also. And because largely we've been disconnected with what is meant to be the real way of dealing with Mother Nature, and especially in terms of cows. And I'll just end on this point. In a very important book written by Srila Prabhupada called The Light of the Bhagavat, Prabhupada wrote that just a few years before going to America, or coming to America. Prabhupada mentions those who are serious to bring about a solution to the major problems, the major global problems we have on the planet today, must first give attention to proper care and protection of cows. How much of us are doing that? I mean, we have many reasons, because most of us just are not connected. When we live in major cities around the world as we are, and when that trend continues to increase, etc. So modernization, urbanization, industrialization has really taken us away from the real, values and the basic values actually of the Vedic culture. It's very critical for us, very urgent as well, to grasp these two important dimensions and aspects of Dharma. And I, again, highly recommend devotees to hear directly what Srila Prabhupada is telling. Don't hear from me. Hear directly from what Prabhupada is telling, and kindly read it, discuss amongst yourselves, and in this way we can help, because it's very much an integral part of Prabhupada's mission. Thank you all very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Samasta Gaur.